So welcome everybody to the Plus Accounting workshop webinar. We usually do these at my hotel, and they're obviously normally face to face, but with everything going on, we've moved, as everyone, online. So this month we decided that we wanted to do something a bit different, and obviously because Georgina has done something completely different, it seemed like the perfect fit for our first kind of virtual workshop. So we're talking to Georgina about her pivot from event company to online egg delivery company, which is completely crazy but completely amazing. I'm Vicky from Plus Accounting, and we're a local firm of accountants that work with startups through to established businesses. So that's kind of enough from me. I'm going to hand over to Georgina just so she can give a little intro on herself. So over to you, Georgina.
Thanks. Hello everyone. I know a couple of you already from events. So I was running networking events for women and running an event production company in Brighton. Do you want me to just launch into the full egg story now, Vicky, or
just kind of a little kind of who you were pre-COVID, I think.
Yeah.
And then
so previously running an event company, so mostly me, but then taking on people as and when I needed them, depending on projects. So it was last year, it was a really, really good year for me. We did the British Airways float in Brighton Pride, so all the concept and the production for that. It's just me really, with some help. And I also work a lot with luxury brands, so people like Harrods and Burberry. And last year also went away for like a long trip to do on-site production for a big event for Harrods Top Spenders, which was something of another world, to be honest. And yeah, we were just about to start doing the Hove Carnival, which I'd just taken on someone else for. And last year we were doing some work with Lab Bible as well, the content creator, putting together launch brunches for them. And I was also working with an insurance company, a big insurance company in London, doing their conferences. So generally quite varied, but usually within the kind of media, creative sort of sphere as a rule, or people who wanted creative events. So yeah, it was a bit of a surprise when everything happened, because last year had been the best year yet, actually, and we were kind of gearing up for an even better year this year.
Right. Okay. And then obviously we hit COVID. So you're also kind of really active in the Brighton community, weren't you, kind of last year and the year before, where you've obviously set up the 9% networking event. So you had that going on as well as your kind of main event business. So there was a lot, like you say, there was a lot going on for you, wasn't there, really?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I thought I was busy before. This is like a whole other level of busy, which we will get onto. But 9% events going really well, actually, and I had to cancel one of those because, well, I've had to postpone it because of coronavirus. And yeah, just really full on, like generally always quite busy, working with a lot of different clients on a lot of different projects at once. And yeah, kind of based not only in Brighton but in London and outside the UK as well, so travel too.
Right, well, there's a little brief history of Georgina back in the day. So now we're going to launch into the questions. So I'm just going to start and kick off with the first one, and then I'll just let you go. So when did COVID affect your business, and was it immediate or gradual?
Oh, it was immediate. So I had a week, which I think would have been the 16th of March. It's pretty much ingrained in my brain, where 5 clients cancelled projects in 1 week. So it was just like dominoes. The first one, the big one, was a conference for an insurance company, like a global conference, which was due to take place in 2 weeks' time. So for that, it wasn't so bad because of the terms of my contract. I didn't lose any money on that. Because they had to pay my full fee because of the lateness of the cancellation. But I also had to tell like 20 suppliers, that they were being cancelled, and not all of them are covered by their contracts. So some people just didn't get anything. And then Hove Carnival, I'd taken on someone else to help me deliver Hove Carnival because I didn't have time to do it myself, a girl called Rebecca. And she unfortunately had the same experience as me, where all her clients cancelled on her in 1 week, and I was one of those people that was having to cancel on her. It was actually awful. But we'd had a meeting with the client before that, with Martlets, who own Hove Carnival or kind of manage it, and we'd had a conversation about a week before, and we'd gone up, people are being really mad about this, you know, coronavirus thing. Like, it seems really over the top. Like, and then the next week we were like, we might have to cancel the event. And then it was so fast, like over the space of time, it was crazy. And I genuinely didn't think, because the event was meant to be in May, and I thought, oh, this can be fine by May. So yeah, so it was very immediate. But I think in some ways in the events industry, we had a bit of an early warning, really, because we were the first people getting cancelled before anything else. So I had 1 week where all these things had happened, and everyone I spoke to was going, oh my God, what are you going to do? And I was like, no. And then next week or the week after, loads of other people were in the same position, because you just couldn't predict what was going to happen. But events were definitely the first thing to go. And a lot of the Facebook groups that I'm in for the events industry was full of people panicking, because everyone was having the same experience, and everyone was scouting around for work and saying, oh, I've had something cancelled, I'm suddenly available. And then, yeah, the speed of it was really, really fast. So it was very, very immediate. I would say, 1 week, from 1 week to the next, it was a completely different business and like rest of the year that I was looking at.
I think that's kind of the thing for most people. Everyone was very optimistic and, oh, it's not going to impact us, it's fine. And then literally, like you say, within a week, the diary looking ahead was kind of being cancelled left, right and centre. So yeah, crazy. Yeah. So how did you communicate like the immediate impact with your clients and suppliers and kind of future events then?
So the clients definitely communicated it with me, because all I could do was like go with them and what they thought was going to be like an appropriate response. So we had an awful lot of back and forth with the insurance company, because we were really right down to the wire. And then in the end, we sort of agreed that it wasn't responsible to get people to fly from places like Asia and China and everywhere, because that was when it had already started there. And at first I was like, oh, it's going to be fine. And then actually we decided it's not a responsible thing to do, to get people to fly somewhere when they don't need to. So I had a lot of conversations with them. Suppliers, I just had to have the difficult conversations endlessly, really. I think for future events, I don't tend to. So I was supposed to be doing a 9% event for the Develop conference in July for Creative Assembly, which we did last year, like a bespoke one. I was supposed to be doing that again. So I just started lining up speakers. And they've postponed that Develop conference now till November, although whether that will take place then on, I'm not really sure. But so for stuff like that, it wasn't so bad, because we hadn't really booked anything in by then. But yeah, I had to take the lead from the clients, because at the end of the day, it's their decision to decide whether they want to go ahead with an event or not. It's not, I can only give my sort of advice. And to be honest, my advice at the beginning was like, well, I think we'll just carry on, you know, like I can't see this being that big a deal. I was obviously clearly very wrong. But I think that as it got more and more serious, we had to take those difficult decisions. And yeah, I did. It was really unpleasant having this conversation with the suppliers, because it made me realise like how far-reaching the events industry goes, because, you know, you're talking to IT people who are going to do the AV for a conference, and caterers, and people who supply chairs, and, you know, all those kind of quite random sort of industries, but are all affected by the event industry. So one event going, and that's not even a big event, it's like a small to medium sized event, will affect at least 20 or 30 people. So for something being cancelled like Glastonbury, it's huge. So yeah, it was all quite difficult conversations, but I mean everyone was very understanding, because what else are you going to do, really?
Yeah, I think the only kind of saving grace is that everybody was in the same boat, like no one was left unaffected. So that kind of understanding was there by everybody, wasn't it?
Totally. And I had one caterer who was like very kind of not happy about it being cancelled, and sent this really long email being like, well, if you look at the figures, this will show that it won't go any further than China. And I was like, it's not my decision. Like I don't want to cancel this. The client has made that decision, and that's what we have to go with. So, you know, I can appreciate why he would feel like that because he's probably had a week of other people saying the same thing. But unfortunately, the decision has never rested with me. The only decision I had to make was about the 9% event, which I decided to postpone. And I offered everybody either refunds or to carry their ticket forward to the next time we could get it in. And most people actually chose to carry their ticket forward. So that was nice.
Did you kind of ever think of taking 9% online, or did you feel that it just wasn't going to be the same fit?
I gave it some thought, and I decided no, just because the big thing about the 9% event, and the thing a lot of people come for, is the networking, and the networking in groups that you've been matched into. And that sort of thing is just not possible on a Zoom call. You know, I even if I could technically separate people into groups and get them to talk, it's awkward, you know, talking to people you don't know on Zoom. And I just didn't feel, I'm a bit perfectionist really with events, so I didn't really want to do it in a way that wasn't going to be exactly how I wanted it to be. I'd rather wait until we could do it in person. I mean, I guess maybe if I'd known, because the event was meant to be in April, if I'd known how long-ranging like the impact of the coronavirus is going to be, I might have considered it more at the time, but like I still think I would have made that decision. And also I think it's hard to ask speakers to deliver a talk to a big group of people online and still get their kind of message across in the way that you want it to. And yeah, I just didn't feel confident doing it that way. I didn't think people would get good value for money. And that was sort of the most important thing for me. If I can't give people good value for their ticket money, I'd rather postpone it until I can.
Yeah, I think that's the right decision. Yes. So what major main decisions have you kind of taken in respect of your event business? Did you kind of see everything cancelling and kind of look long term and think, right, this is quite drastic? Or
I think I have very much had to take it day by day. And I think it's the same for everyone because no one has a crystal ball. So I don't think anyone at the beginning of the year could have predicted anything like this, you know, like it's just not possible. So in terms of my business, it was so fast because like once everyone had decided to cancel or postpone, and once I had invoiced everyone for fees that they'd incurred and sorted out what everyone needed to be paid and owed, that was it. Like that was, and then I was just kind of staring down the barrel of an empty month. So that's why I kind of ended up creating this second business, because it was less so about the money, although that was a consideration, but more so about having something to do, because I couldn't bear the idea of just having nothing when I'm normally so busy. So yeah, the decisions, once we cancelled everything, that was it really. That was it. And I just sort of chose to play it by ear really. I think a lot of people in the industry have decided to, I know a lot of people have decided to retrain or to look for like into different kind of options. I think a lot of people have decided to try and like do more online stuff, but it doesn't interest me, like doing online events particularly. Like it's not what I enjoy doing. And because I've been kept so busy with this new business, I think I just haven't bothered going down that route really, because I haven't needed to, and because it doesn't really excite me, I guess. But yeah, so once that was it really, once we decided to cancel everything and we communicated that, there was no more decisions to be made really.
Diary, yes. So kind of how did you suddenly look at an empty diary and then go to eggs?
I'll make you up. Well, basically, I was fearful of the empty diary, mostly because I thought I can't bear to be bored and also worried at the same time, because I think I'd end up going mad. And all my family are in Guernsey, and so I haven't been able to see them because they've had a 2-week quarantine period on, because they were the first place to be declared coronavirus free, which is great, but means that I have not been able to see them since February, and I really, really miss them. So I needed something to kind of keep my mind off that as well. Sorry. And so I was looking around for something to do, and I was like, what do people need at the moment? And this is when everyone was stockpiling and hoarding and so on. And there was no loo roll and there was no flour. And I was like, well, I can't provide those. And there was no eggs. And I knew that the Max Farm in Ditchling sold wholesale to people. So I just said to my neighbours, like, does anyone want any eggs? And everyone was like, oh yeah. And I thought, oh, maybe there's something in this. So I put a post up on the Lewes Facebook group. Lewes is where I live, and I just said, like, if I started doing a weekly like lockdown egg delivery service, would anyone be interested? And oh my god, I had like about 100 replies in about a really short space of time, and everyone's going, yes, yes, me please, yes, will you deliver to here and here and here? And I was like, oh my god.
The demand was there.
Yeah, and I just thought, well, there's got to be something in this. So I decided to just go for it, and I created an order form with Google Forms. I put it up. We had 60 orders in the first 3 hours. It was like actually petrifying, because every time I looked at my inbox, it was just like full of like order forms. And then the farm that we were initially using, the Max farm, so I'd ordered 22 trays of 30 eggs from them to start off with. And they emailed me on the Friday night. I was meant to be collecting them on Monday. And they were like, oh, we've had such a run on eggs because no one can get hold of them. We can only give you 6 trays. And I was like, oh my God, like I've promised all these people eggs, and they've like paid me money, and they're going to think I'm like doing some kind of elaborate egg scam. So I had to ring around every organic egg farm in Sussex. It turns out they're all related to each other, and everyone was like, no, oh no, that's my brother-in-law's farm, no, we don't have any eggs. And the last one I tried, which is Springles near Lewes, they were like, oh yeah, I've got loads, because they supply to all the restaurants, and obviously all the restaurants have been closed.
Right.
And they've been my supplier ever since. So yeah, so that's kind of how I hit on the business, and then it's just absolutely mushroomed from there. And so now doing honey, like South Downs honey, Sussex cheese. We just had Wimbledon strawberries, so they've grown like 38 tons of strawberries for Wimbledon, and none of which can be used. So I bought up some of those and sold them on.
Of course, yeah.
Got blueberries, Sussex blueberries, and I've got somebody who delivers for me in Brighton. So we cover Brighton, Hove, Shoreham, Worthing, where people can collect from a pub instead of delivery, and then Lewes as well. So it just was like, yeah, I never expected this to happen, but I also sort of realised that I think there's a bit of a gap in the market for delivery of local produce, because Sussex has got some amazing produce, and a lot of the time, like the local organic shop, to me, like their strawberries are coming from France, and they're like chutneys coming from Cornwall, and I'm like, why? Because there's all this stuff we have like in this county. So yeah, so it's been a bit of a it's been quite the wild ride, really, but like it's just
quite an education. Yeah. How did you like? What was the speed of spreading from Lewes to Brighton, Hove, and Worthing? Like
fast, like everything's been so fast. So I worked out the other day, because I was asked for an article to work out how many eggs I delivered, and this was like 2 weeks ago. And it turns out I've delivered over 20,000 eggs since the 23rd of March, which is a lot. And everything's just been that speed. So we kept getting requests from people in Brighton and Hove, or people like sneakily filling out the Lewes order form with a Brighton address, and I'd have to email them and say, like, I'm sorry, we don't deliver to Brighton. And then I thought, well, we should. So I got a friend of mine called Tracy, who is a travel writer, who is also out of work, and so I pay her to do deliveries, and she does it with her 14-year-old daughter who's not at school, and they love it. They're so enthusiastic. I take them every week, and they're really like keen, and they really, really enjoy it. So I reckon it was probably, I've been delivering in Lewes for maybe like a month, and then we decided to do Brighton, and I started off just doing like BN1 and BN2, and then I just thought, actually, it's making my life difficult trying to restrict people to like these areas. So now we just cover all of Brighton, and we sometimes have to split the delivery into 2 days, because otherwise it takes up, like, it's too long. But yeah, and then Worthing's the same. I just kept getting requests from people in Worthing, so I got I've had an agreement with a pub called the Brunswick and Thorn, where I drop eggs off there every other week, and people just collect them from there. So that works quite well.
And all of that spread is kind of like just word of mouth, social media.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is, so Facebook, I just have joined every single community group for every area. My God, like there's shit on those. I've had to like unfollow all of them from my timeline, because I can't, like, it's really intense. But yeah, so I basically post in those groups, the ones that allow advertising, and I found the best responses that I get is when I'm just like super honest. So I'm like, oh, you know, if this is something I set up during lockdown, like, I hope, you know, if you want to get Sussex produce delivered to your door, just sign up. and that sort of seems to go down quite well because I think the story resonates with people. I've got a Facebook page as well, and then we've just been doing a little bit of publicity. So I've done BBC Sussex on the radio a couple of times, and that's always quite helpful. Lauren Laverne mentioned.
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh my God, like I
Very
love
good.
her. So I was like leaping around in the kitchen. But a lot of people got in touch with me after that and said, oh, I heard you on Six Music. So I think, yeah, it's just been quite organic, really. But I sort of toyed with, we printed off some flyers and I gave them out around Brighton, but the return that we got from it was not really, I get a lot more from doing it online. So yeah, it was just interesting to experiment with that. But yeah.
Yeah, and are you kind of planning on, I guess, kind of expanding the produce that you're delivering? Like, obviously you've added in the honey and the strawberries. Are you constantly now looking at the next local produce that's coming up for grabs?
Yeah, all the time. Like, because I've always been interested in seasonal food anyway, and like I started off giving everyone a recipe with their eggs every week, and I've carried on doing that, but now I just post it on the Facebook page because I love cooking anyway. But I've always, I know what's in season year round anyway, and I think that it's a shame that more people don't actually, because it's a lot more environmentally friendly to try and eat seasonally and also eat like locally rather than having things flown in. So I'd like to do more products. I've just taken a storage unit at Barkham, out in Barkham Mills on a farm, because I've run out of space in my house, and it actually got quite stressful because there was just like strawberries everywhere, eggs everywhere. And my boyfriend was very patient with it, but I think when the fridge was full of cheese that he couldn't eat, he was a bit upset. So
too far, yeah.
So I've taken a storage unit, and now I've got a little bit more space. I can actually expand. So we're going to start doing South Downs butter. And I want to get I've just got some samples of chutneys as well, because I think it'd be quite nice to do sort of like gift packs with cheese and chutney. Yeah, so now I've got a bit more space, I can do that. Before that, I kept thinking, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, but I just didn't have enough room in my house. So so we're hoping to expand a bit further. And I'm also trying to get a new website sorted out as well, because at the moment, the order form that I'm using just isn't really up to the job. So that's also preventing me putting any more products on until I got something that's a bit more efficient as an ordering system.
I mean, it clearly sounds like you've got a really strong passion for this kind of new business. I mean, I'm going to jump a couple of questions because I just think this one makes more sense to follow on. So do you think that you'll go back to events, as you did before COVID, or are you going to continue to evolve this new business venture? Because, if you're buying a unit, you're investing in a website, you're continuing to look at seasonal produce, that doesn't just suddenly stop. I mean,
it doesn't sound like it, does it? Everyone asks me this actually at the moment. I don't know. Like, I have no plans to stop doing this, and I think that I really don't think that the events, or at least the kind of events that I do, are coming back this year. Like, I just don't think it's going to happen, because any responsible company is not going to want their staff to fly around the world for no reason. I think all my clients I've spoken to are taking a lot of their events online, which, like I said before, doesn't interest me, and I can't help with anyway because I don't have the technical know-how. So I would say that there's no chance. I mean, stuff like the float in Brighton Pride's not happening. That was for BA. God knows whether BA will have the budget to do a float next year. I mean, like the effects are crazy. So I don't like to say like yes or no or definitely, because I think it's so hard to know what's going on. I'd find it hard to leave the event industry behind totally, because I do love it. Like, it's a great industry and people are brilliant. I wouldn't want to give up doing the 9% event, but I definitely wouldn't want to give up this company either. So I think what I'm likely to do is continue the 9% event, but probably with help from someone that I've worked with before, and get them to do the kind of bulk of the running and the admin of it, and I can sort of get the speakers in and like match people up in networking and stuff, but probably take away a bit of the kind of donkey work, really. And with our clients, I'd have to play it by ear, I think. Like, I have to say, the idea of going back to events now doesn't actually thrill me that much. Like, just because I've been in that industry for a very long time, and I work with some clients, not all clients, but some clients in the luxury sector can be quite difficult. And I think my patience for that wanes the older I get. And I think there's something quite refreshing about the food industry, in that like you're fulfilling a need, rather than a want, which is what a lot of luxury events are, and people may think they're needs, but they're not. And I think that there's also I love the simplicity of like a product-based business model, because it's so straightforward, like marketing it, you know, like in events I have to go in and I pitch against loads of other companies and I say this is why I'm best, blah blah blah. But with like stuff like food and eggs, and it's like, do you want eggs, yes or no?
It is what it is. Yeah.
It's really straightforward. I mean, it's not straightforward in some other ways because of the physical stuff and like the space you need and the investment, I guess, that you have to put in, but like it's refreshingly straightforward in lots of other ways. And I think, yeah, I'm enjoying it so much. It's just been such a positive experience all around. Like, I'm insanely busy, like I never stop.
Yeah. I guess that kind of, that desire from you to kind of not wanting to be bored, and you know, having communications with different people as you would have done in the event industry, you're kind of still doing that in this new venture, aren't you? Because you're speaking to different kind of produce suppliers, you're speaking to the clients, you're sorting out the delivery. So you, like you said, you're constantly busy, probably more so than ever before.
Yeah, God, I thought I was busy before. This is like nothing, because I'm always like, there's like 3 different places that I should be in at once, and like I'm always like running. I feel like I'm running slightly behind, which can be a bit stressful. But I think what I really like is that like the producers, the food and drink producers in Sussex are brilliant, and they're so passionate about what they're creating. And I had a bit of a taste of that before when I was working with Brighton Gin doing their events, because they're like a great example of a kind of small local producer who really cares about what they're doing. And a lot of the other alcohol producers that I met in Sussex through them. And I always thought I really liked that aspect. You know, everyone's kind of making this thing and they're kind of trying to do it in like quite a money-saving way usually, but they're making a really great product and they just want to get it out to people. So being able to deal with producers generally in Sussex has actually been something I've been quite interested in, full stop. So I think, yeah, it's definitely fulfills a lot of my interests, especially with the seasonal kind of cooking and eating and everything anyway. I've always sort of thought if I hadn't gone into events, I might have gone into like the food industry anyway. So yeah, that's kind of where I've ended up slightly going in a different route.
Yeah. So obviously, like you've just said that it's required some investment from you, obviously, to have all this produce and, you know, the unit and kind of other people helping you out with delivery. Have you accessed kind of the government support schemes and grants to help with that?
I got the Self-Employed support scheme, so the 80% of your 3 months of earnings, which I was pleasantly surprised was really straightforward to apply for.
Yeah.
That was a really pleasant surprise. It wasn't as much as I would, I guess, earn in 3 months nowadays, because it was based on, in part, on my first year in business, where I earned like hardly anything. So it was not unwelcome, but it also, if I hadn't been doing this, it wouldn't have been a massive problem solver, you know, like it wasn't like I could think, oh great, I can just chill out now for 3 months. So I'm thinking of accessing maybe one of the like government loans that are available for businesses, because I really want a van. I'm kind of dreaming of a van, little van, and never thought I'd be dreaming of a van, but here we are. And and I mean, stuff like the storage unit is pretty cheap. It's actually cheaper than what I was paying for my Brighton office, which I had to leave and I was very sad about, because I love the people I share with. So I'm taking a sort of temporary hiatus from the office, and so I can pay for the storage unit, although I do plan to be back there at some point, because I don't love always working at home. And in terms of the produce, yeah, like there is the investment there. I tend to order from the suppliers on what has been ordered by the customers. So I might have a few spares of something, but I won't necessarily have to order a certain amount. I can base it on every week on what people are ordering. The thing I guess that's been more of an investment is I just had to buy bits and bobs. So like we've got these little cool bags. So when we start delivering butter, if people aren't at home, they can be like left in a cool bag. So I've had to buy those. I've got like paper bags, things like those kind of like bits and bobs, petrol for the car, and I'm planning on investing some money into a website, because I've been trying to like sort out the ordering system and it's just not straightforward, and all like Shopify and all these other websites, they're great, but it can't do what I want it to do, which is like a subscription based model, but like with a lot of variations. So I've been speaking to a few web developers to see if they can write me some back end code, and
Yeah.
that is something I'm going to have to put some money into, which I've not had to do before because I've always done my own website and stuff before. So it's definitely not. My events company was set, I did everything myself, like I didn't pay anyone to do anything, whereas this, I'm kind of realizing I have to pay someone to create this website for me because it's going to save me so much time that I just don't have anyway, and it will make my life so much easier when the ordering system is more straightforward. Because at the moment, you should see my spreadsheets, there's like hundreds of tabs, and it's
Just
all
imagine, yeah. So I guess like the government supports kind of it's gone far enough to a degree, and there's still other options for you to potentially use, like say the bounce back loan. Like you could use that for the website investment and a van purchase potentially. So do you think the support kind of goes far enough for other businesses that you kind of have connections with?
I felt at the beginning that the self-employed had been really neglected. That was before the self-employed support thing was announced. And that was actually one of the things that propelled me into making this business more of a going concern, because I didn't think we were going to get anything. I think that I feel really sorry for the people who fall in between the gaps. So, I mean, my boyfriend would fall into this, but he's been working constantly, but he is a TV editor with his own company, so he pays himself through dividends, and he's luckily got an edit suite at home, which is quite unusual, so he can edit from home anyway. But if he wasn't in that situation, and the same as Tracy, who does my Brighton delivery, she's fallen through the cracks by being a company, and I think that's really rubbish, actually. I think the events industry didn't get enough recognition, actually, like when everything was getting cancelled, because the events industry brings in something like 3 billion or something for the economy.
Yeah.
And there was no like articles about it at all. It was all focusing on other industries. And I found that quite frustrating because, like I was saying before, the reach of the events industry for other businesses is huge.
Yeah.
And, events can be a dinner for 4 people, or it can be Glastonbury. So, like, I think it's a bit frustrating that we didn't get the recognition as an industry that was really badly affected right away, and with no real kind of endpoint either. We're not like hairdressers where they're going, okay, now you can open again. Like, it all depends on other people a lot of the time. So, I think it would do. But I was impressed with the self-employed support scheme, and I do think like just the way of applying for it was so straightforward. And I was like, I'd braced myself to like spend hours filling out forms, and it really wasn't like that at all. So that was good. But I think there's probably more that they could do. But I guess there's only so much money as well, right, to go around. So
yeah, and I think with the events as well, a lot of events initially were postponed, weren't they, rather than cancelled until like September, October, November. But I think, like you said, I think those are just going to kind of push back to 2021. I just don't think there's going to be anything this year. That whole industry is just kind of, it's a non-year, isn't it, really, for the event world?
Definitely.
Yeah. So going back to as and when it was hitting you, the crisis, did you as a business, did you ever have a crisis management plan in place? Obviously you couldn't have predicted what was going to happen, but did you have something in place if like suddenly events were cancelled last minute, or what was your plan,
Well, I'm not the best on plans, Vicky. Never even written business plans. So although it's ironic really, because I plan events for other people and I am very organised in that. I've always had terms in my contract that cover me. So any kind of cancellation within a month, I've always incurs my full fee, and anything earlier than that can incur 50%. And I've always been really hot on having that written into contracts, and I was so glad that I did, because I think a lot of people, from looking at the Facebook groups that I'm in, a lot of people in events don't necessarily have that, or they can get fobbed off by clients who don't sign or whatever. And I've always been really insistent on that, because I think events can be a bit of a house of cards. It only takes one thing. And when I was working in like doing wedding planning very briefly, I always had something to cover me there, because you just don't know what's going to happen. Like, people could end up not getting married, and you will put this work in and you can't get anything back. So I've always had that. In terms of like a business recovery plan or a business continuity plan, no, like I've never planned for anything like that. And I think mainly because it's usually just me. So if I had a responsibility for a lot of staff, then you definitely would have a responsibility to do that. Whereas because I've always been quite agile in my kind of business, in my business generally, because it's just me, I've never had to do that. And I think, yeah, you just couldn't predict, because I mean, there's always, events are normally always around. So I don't think like, it was certainly a surprise, but I would recommend that anyone always gets that kind of cancellation clause written into their contract anyway, because you just, you know, as I always say about events, people are involved and you can't predict what people do. So like, you have to always make sure you're covered, and you don't want to be doing all that work for nothing.
Yeah, no, it's very true. I mean, yeah, you were kind of lucky in that sense that you had clauses and things already in place, whereas, you know, a lot of businesses, even though they did manage other people, just didn't have any kind of next plan, next continuity, anything. So do you think, obviously, you know, with the events kind of all on hiatus and you kind of changing to a different kind of business venture, do you think the business landscape in Brighton is going to change considerably? I know, like you've just said, that you've kind of gone on hiatus with your office space as well. Like, how do you think everything that's going on is going to impact specifically Brighton and how it lives? Yeah,
I think I was thinking about this question before, actually. I think like this is a really two-sided coin. So I think the negative view would be that Brighton is an expensive city anyway, with a lot of people who aren't paid as well as they should be. So there's a lot of people living on a very thin margin and doing several jobs. So on the negative side of the coin, that could be disastrous for a lot of people. Because I mean, we don't have a great homelessness rate anyway, but you know, our property costs are vast. And I think especially people wanting to get out of London and move closer to the sea, they could be pushed up even further. I think, so on the one hand, I think it could be quite negative for a lot of people. And I think maybe a lot of people might be trying to get out of self-employment and get into full-time employment. But on the positive side of the coin, I think that Brighton is a city with great creativity, with people who are quite resilient and quite good at dealing with jobs that are not always necessarily very permanent or very secure. And there's a lot of people with a lot of really interesting creative side hustles who are kind of quite good at making money and making something from nothing. So I think it's hard to say. I think the bigger businesses like Brandwatch and those kind of big employers, I think they should be fine personally, because their kind of business model is not going to be affected by anything like this. They can take their work remotely, same with people like Futurely, you know, everything can be done online and they don't need to be in the office. And Amex, you know, those are the kind of biggest employers, aren't they? Like Brandwatch, Amex. So I think hopefully they should be I really hope they should be fine. I think that's concerning for the hospitality industry, which we have a lot of. All those cafes and restaurants and things, people will support them, but I worry for the small business, like the physically small spaces where they won't be able to get enough people in to cover their rates. So that makes me a little bit worried, but I genuinely worry about the hospitality industry full stop, because they operate on such thin margins anyway. So I think we could see a lot of, sadly, smaller hospitality businesses not coming back for the foreseeable. But I think if we have a bounce back, they will all be back. And I think, you know, Brighton, like I say, like, we're a great city full of people who are really creative and pretty resourceful. And I think that people will look at the challenges and find ways around it. So I think people will take more things online. They might start taking their side hustle into a more full-time business. You know, I think that Brighton will always be okay, but yeah, it's hard to say. As long as the big employers carry on as they are, right? That's the thing I really hope, because I think a lot of people depend on them, and it would be a shame for people to have to keep going. I think a lot of people aren't going to want to go up to London, you know, a lot of people commute and no one's going to want to do that anymore. So there's going to be a necessity for more people to start setting up, maybe doing their own thing anyway from home. So yeah, it could be really interesting.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like it's sped up kind of what would happen in the next 5-10 years. It's kind of squeezed it all into the next 5-10 months, isn't it? So just naturally kind of evolved, and no one would have kind of really batted an eyelid. It's now all just squished into kind of a short period of time. It's more kind of obvious. And I guess what tips can you give other businesses currently going through a change to their existing business model, a change to their existing business environment, and kind of those that are now looking not just to pivot their business, but like you said, you know, looking at their side hustles and thinking, could that actually kind of be my main income now? What kind of tips have you learned in your fast tracked kind of switch that you can kind of give people?
I think it's a really, really good time to try things out. So when I initially started doing the eggs, I had no plans. I didn't know it was going to get as big as it did, or that it was going to continue as long as it has. Like, I didn't think I'd still be doing this now. And I initially only put an order for the first 4 weeks, because I was like, I'll do this in 4 weeks. So I think keep a really open mind. Like, there's no right or wrong ways of doing things at the moment. It's a really, really good time to be testing stuff out. So if there's something that you have been thinking it might be a good idea, there's a lot of needs that have been created by the pandemic, which maybe people could be fulfilling. So that was initially that was what everything stemmed for me, is fulfilling a need and being able to get hold of something that people needed. So I think if you can look at what people need at the moment and want, that's always a really, really good idea. And then I think, keep a really open mind, and just I think never be afraid to fail. Because I just kept thinking, well, like, if this whole egg thing doesn't pan out, like, who cares? You know, like, everyone's going to be much more bothered about what's going on in the rest of the world. They're not going to mind about, well, they're going to know, you know, like, if it goes wrong. And I can just chalk it up to something that I thought I would do to try and keep me busy. Oh, it didn't pan out. Now it actually has gone the other way, and it's taken off a lot more than that. But I think I didn't put any pressure on it at all. So I think if someone's going to try something, you just don't put any pressure on it, you know, just give it a go and see if it pans out. And if not, then you kind of learn from it and move on. But I don't think no one's sort of putting all their focus on what other people are doing at the moment. They're more worried about themselves. It's probably quite a good time. If you think you're going to fall on your face, maybe the time is now.
Yeah. Do it now, you know, no one's watching. Yeah.
And also, I think, you know, like, these things can end up being a runaway success. I just think there's going to be a lot of difficult things that are going to come from the pandemic, like employment wise and business wise. But there's also going to be there's opportunities in everything, like always an opportunity. So I think if you can find the opportunity and grasp onto it, now is the time to do it, and maybe try and look at the positives and the kind of gaps in the market and what you could be doing, and try and ignore the kind of the negative news that's coming out as much, because I think it's just a really good time to be like looking for opportunities, trying something new. And if all else fails, when your kids say to you, like, what did you do during the coronavirus pandemic, you can be like, well, I delivered eggs, so
yeah. Do you kind of look back over the last 3 months and just think, like, how crazy and how kind of fast paced and how kind of amazing, like, you know, the growth of what you've been doing and kind of the contacts you've now made? Do you kind of look back at that and kind of when you've been on radio kind of broadcasts and think, like, this is quite crazy, this is quite amazing, like, all in one?
It's absolutely mental. So I'm not going to say who it is, but there's like a celebrity customer that we deliver to, and he has a lot of eggs. He has like 60 eggs a week. Okay,
that's a lot. I
don't know what he does with them, but he's one of our best customers, and that was one of the weirdest things when I was like, who even knew that I would be delivering eggs to this famous person? It's so weird. So it's been, like I say, it's a really, really wild ride. Like, I just feel like I've learned so much in a short space of time. Like, it's been crazy. It's made me want to have someone else around, actually, like a business partner or something in the future, because just to bounce ideas off. Because like, sometimes I'm like, oh, should I do this? I don't know. There's no one to ask. I'm gonna ask my boyfriend. I ask my friends, you know. But like, it would be nice. I'm kind of looking for a mentor actually at the moment, someone who's kind of been in a similar industry, because I'd love them to sort of look at the business and suggest things, but see how I can kind of grow it further. But it's just like the first few weeks I was like, what is going on, you know, like I just have got all these like insane amounts of orders, and I kept getting stuff wrong, and like, you know, the first week was really awful delivery, and then I managed to work out how to make it better and like more efficient. I feel like I'm kind of too close to it now to get any perspective, because when I had an interview on BBC Sussex, and she was like, do you realise how weird this is? And I was like, nope, like I have no perspective. And
you're in it. Yeah.
But yeah, like I just think, if you said to me even in like February, March, you know, like, this is what you're going to be doing, and don't get me wrong, like, I mean, I didn't do this to make money, but the money has not been bad either. So like, that's really been a pleasant surprise as well. And I think like that's what's making me think it could be like a viable ongoing thing, because I thought if lockdown ended and people stopped ordering, then we would know that it was just like a lockdown business, whereas that's not been the case, because I've kept adding more produce. People have kept ordering and they've really enjoyed having that kind of local produce delivered to them. So yeah, it's totally bizarre, but like really positive as well. So yeah.
It's a change of habit, isn't it? I think everyone's kind of eating and ordering of food kind of habits has massively changed during lockdown, and people are much more kind of open and aware of what's around them, what they're putting in their body. Like it has changed people's kind of view of everything. So I mean, you know, the fact that you're then offering all of this local produce, it's kind of, you know, it works perfectly, doesn't it, with kind of people's new outlook.
Definitely, and it's good for the producers as well, you know, like especially like the egg farms. So the farm where I get the eggs is like fully organic, it's higher welfare, it's RSPCA approved. It has a rehoming program for hens that like at the end of their laying lives, they go on and be pets in people's houses. Like it's just then that does make the eggs more expensive, because the cost involved in creating the best produce is obviously going to be higher. But the fact that I was buying a huge amount of eggs from them every week, which replaced the ones they'd be selling to the restaurant, was a real lifeline for them. And it's been the same with every producer I've got in touch with. They're always happy to have a new route to market, and like they're always really pleased to work with new people, because a lot of people just don't know about the things that they're making. And I think if we can get people eating more seasonally and buying things that don't come from like the other side of the world, totally out of season, everyone will feel the benefit, because it tastes better, it's better for the environment, and it's better for everyone. And I've always thought this, so it's really nice that I get the chance to like now preach that message to other people.
Yeah, exactly. We've had a question from Meg. She's just said, what would you want your autumn seasonal produce delivery to be, and what do you think would be in demand, and do you see this expanding into something bigger beyond eggs, butter, honey, etc.? Like, how big has your vision kind of gone with this?
Well, the other day I was like, a Riverford van went past and I was like, oh, the enemy. No, they're not the enemy, but I think like I have been doing a lot of looking at like Riverford and Able and Cole and those kind of veg boxes, and trying to see what it is that they do and what people like about them. Autumn wise, I was actually thinking about autumn the other day, funnily enough, because I was thinking like squash, butternut squash, and I was thinking, oh, you could do pumpkins. But actually I think people quite like picking their own pumpkins, because you know you can go to the whole pumpkin patch with your kids and take a nice photo of them within the pumpkins. So I think it has to be things that people can't necessarily always get, and I think root vegetables, but from a producer that does something really, really nicely. So we had asparagus about a month ago from South Brockwell's farm out in Iford, and in Isfield, not in Iford, and they are a specific asparagus farm. It's all they do. They grow the best asparagus, and people jumped at that because I think it's not something they particularly knew about. They maybe wouldn't drive themselves out into the middle of the countryside to get it, so having it delivered to you was great. And I think if we find more seasonal producers in Sussex who are doing those sorts of things, we'll carry on expanding that way. So autumn is always going to be stuff like root vegetables, probably some jams and jellies, chutneys, that kind of thing, because the producers are all making stuff like that. I've kind of toyed with the idea. I've spoken to there's a farmer who does lamb and stuff. I haven't done any meat yet, and I'm a bit wary about that, but like there is always that option as well. And the cheese goes on all year round, the honey goes on all year round, and the butter, so that's will continue. But yeah, like I don't want to do veg boxes particularly, because I think the market's quite saturated with veg boxes, and it's also a complex thing to sort out with people's like likes and dislikes and things. So I think definitely carrying on with just bringing people really, really nice produce, but maybe offering more like gifting options as well, so that people can send it to people, and you can buy like, or you can even get a subscription pack of like, you know, Sussex chutneys, and it changes every 3 months or something. So yeah, I'm kind of looking into all of that really. But yeah, just see what happens. Sky's the limit.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like an endless possibility, isn't it, really? When you start talking about it and you kind of talk about the gift boxes, subscription models, it's, you know, it's a fully ready kind of business that can continue to expand if the demand is there, which, you know, at the moment it is. So it's quite exciting, isn't it, really?
Yeah, well, I get really excited about it. The only thing is that like, last night I slept so badly because I was dreaming about like egg delivering and like things I should be doing, and I woke up and I feel like I just don't ever switch off at the moment because I'm always thinking about it. I'll be walking down the street and I'll be like, what about butter? You know, so it's quite hard to get away from it sometimes.
Yeah. I guess because it's it's still a new venture, isn't it? A new business. So you're in that honeymoon phase, aren't you? Still, where everything's kind of new, exciting, and fresh, and ideas are popping in all the time. So yeah, I guess it's good that you've had that during this period, and you haven't just been sat there worrying or thinking about things that you shouldn't be thinking about. You've kind of had this to focus on, and kind of the future of it as well is really good. Yeah,
definitely.
I guess well, my last question I do want to ask is how many eggs can you actually fit in a Ford Focus?
You asked. It turns out that you can fit 1,600 eggs in a Ford Focus.
Wow.
I've never loved my car so much. Like, I love my car. I love my car so much because it just has been so reliable throughout all of this, and you can just fit so much stuff in it, and like it's just amazing. So yeah, I would never, unless I get a van, I'm never going to leave my little blue alone.
We've just had a little comment from Richard. He said that if you're looking to get a business mentor, you should try contacting Paula Seeger from Natural PR, Natural Partnerships CIC, and she runs the Sussex Food and Drink Awards.
Okay.
Apparently she's very well connected, local food and drink suppliers, and he's given her contact details as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Actually, I'm going to screenshot that on my screen. Just so that I've got it. Actually, I'll take a little photo of it. Thank you, that's really helpful. Yeah, because I would love to get a mentor, because I just think there's a lot of things that like it'd be really useful to have somebody kind of look at from an external perspective and see what I could make better and more efficient and so on. So yeah. Fab, thank you.
Yeah, that's really good. Have you got anything else that you would like to share, Georgina? Do you want to pitch like where people can find out more about your produce?
Yeah, so at the moment I'm working on a website, as I mentioned. So and actually, if anyone's got any like really good e-commerce web designers, they can get in touch with me, because I've had a couple of pitches from people, but in an ideal world I would love to use someone local. So yeah, do get in touch with me. If they go to Facebook, basically, if anyone wants to know anything more about this, Facebook is the place to go. So on the screen, the facebook.com/Organic Eggspress. Do you know, I tried to make it Sussex Organic Eggspress, and Facebook wouldn't allow me because it had sex in the title.
No, really? Their priorities are all wrong, aren't they, with how they kind of algorithm things?
It's Sussex. So it's Organic Express. And their order forms are on there, so you can find an order form for your area and you can order. And then you can email me. My email address is up there, or call me or anything. If anyone ever has any kind of nice leads for PR or anything, like I'm always interested in publicity for it, because it's really helpful for me in like the local area. So yeah, I'm always happy to hear from anyone, so get in touch.
Lovely, thank you very much. Well, thank you for your time today, Georgina. I was really interested, and I hope people have enjoyed listening to your story and your kind of future plans and ambitions for the company. Where is it going to go next? Exciting to kind of see, really. I'm just double checking. I've just got one more. Just another fab session, really interesting and inspiring. So that's really good. So we've obviously recorded this session, so we'll share it kind of on our social media platforms afterwards, and Georgina can share it to her groups as well. I know you went on LinkedIn for the first time the other day, didn't you? So was that a bit of a culture shock?
I haven't gone near it for so long, and I was like, oh my god. And most of the experiences were like not useful, but yeah, I feel like I should try and keep my my social media use up a bit again, because I've kind of slacked off a little bit recently.
You've been preoccupied, so that's okay. We'll let you off. Well, it's lovely to speak to you. Thank you to everyone that's been listening. Hope you've enjoyed it. And like I said, we'll share the recording afterwards on social. And if anyone's got any questions or any further information that they want to ask Georgina, all our contact details are on the screen there. So thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Vicky.